All right, I think we're going. So perfect. All
Okay.
right. So today's seminar is by Mario Giampietro, newly retired from UAB in Barcelona. Mario is one of our most creative and innovative researchers that I think we have out there today, particularly in the world of sustainability and realm of ecological economics. He's mentored many students and has many great ideas. And we're very fortunate today to have him present for us his speech on two elephants in the room in sustainability science. Thank you, Mario.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Let me go first of all in full presentation. Do you see the presentation okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the presentation is a little bit strange, but how you've been saying, I've been always doing strange things, try to be innovative. And what I would like to do is to introduce new concept, because in ecological economics, we have been saying we should go over the narrative of standard economics. We should have new narratives, but in reality, we are still with the grow. I mean, it's not that we have been in trouble in find new way of representing the interaction of the society with the environment and with the governance process. So what I will do, I will try to start using the concept introduced by Luhmann about social theory and interpret these concepts using the biosemiotic process, how complex adaptive systems define and update their own identity. So, and this will be done to reflect on this quote. This is a quote of Gramsci that says, what is the problem with sustainability is that the old world is dying and the new world struggle to be born. And in this gray area, you get monsters. Okay. So let's go to the characterization of the description of a society using the concept of Luhmann. And Luhmann say, what is a society? Is a bunch of communication that are used to guide interactions. And then the interactions are used to improve the communications. So as to, in this representation in very concise way, they say that this is a standard leitmotif of complex adaptive system. We had in Simon, the father of complexity, that he said complex system have recipes making process, a process making recipes. We had the DNA making genotype, making phenotype, a phenotype making genotype. So this is a well-established way of looking at the self-organization in complex adaptive system. What Luhmann added is what happened in the interaction. And he said, basically, we have social practices, that the social metabolism inside the society. Then we have an interaction with an external context, a biophysical context. It would be the embedded ecosystem. And this is a stroke of genius of Luhmann. It says there is another context that is us. In the sense, he say the society is not us, is a sort of exosomatic accumulation of knowledge claim, what we know, what we share as experience. But what is us is the individuals. They are outside the society. As a matter of fact, we have to accept to be part of the society in order to be an effective member. So what is the psychic structure? Is us as individuals, they are looking at what is happening in the society and decide whether or not we like it or not. So this part of the loop is where you are generating the group identity. And this is another important concept. this coming from Habermas and other German sociologists, if you do not have an identity with other people, we don't communicate. So if you want to communication, you must have people that want to communicate. They have to share some something important, their identity. So if we start looking at the cycle, then we can see that this is what Peirce, the famous American semiotician, defined as a semiotic process. No, the communication represent, then there is an interpretation that guiding interaction, and then the interaction provide experience that is used to legitimizing the representation. So if go this way, basically, we have that the psychic structure is generating shared myths that are the one they are legitimizing the power, okay? The establishment, and then why we do things, why we are Americans, why we are Palestinian, or why we are Israeli. I mean, it is what give meaning to our common action. Then on the other side, you have, after a representation has been done, validated knowledge. No, and then in this case, this is useful to decide how to do things and what things we want to do. Okay, so if we accept this analysis, basically what we have now, that the dying old world that was referred in the previous quote, is that our shared mean is that everyone on this planet will be rich like the American, and then we can solve all the problem with better technology, the Cartesian dream and the American dream. And what is the old in the validated knowledge? That we can solve a sustainability problem with technological innovation and business model. As a matter of fact, nobody really believed this. And then if you look at models, things, data, it is quite obvious that we are not solving a sustainability problem with technological innovation. And it is very unlikely that we will have 10 billion people living like Americans. So let's go again through this structuring and see what is happening now. That is what I will be talking today. We have a situation in which the American dream, Cartesian dream, perpetual economic growth is forcing the politicians to say that this is possible, even though this at times is in an odds with the scientific information. But then when this happens, basically, we experience the switch of evidence-based policy to policy-based evidence, in the sense that it's not that the politician do what the scientist says should be done, but rather we have that the scientists produce information that is justifying the policy decided by the establishment. And then if you are in this situation, you start getting policy legends, a circular economy, that you can do a society with zero emission, that you can have a green perpetual growth, that are policy legend, the dangerous socio-technical imaginaries that have the plus of being easy to be sold to the population, no? Because everyone like circular economy, zero emission, and green growth. Okay, so having done this opening, I will come now to the content of this presentation, and that is how it is possible that we are socially constructing ignorance nel policy discourse about science and environment. So there are two elephants here. One elephant is that we are using sloppy scientific analysis, and second, that we are making decisions based on policy legend. And of course, the two things are related, and in the conclusion, we will see how this is happening. So let's go through the first type of elephant, and then the discussion is pretty easy. This is, for those that do not know it, is the killing curve, is the concentration in the atmosphere in the Hawaii. And this has been done starting the 60s to now. And as you can see, the CO2 concentration goes up monotonically. And it gives some sort of historic perspective on what we are doing to handle this problem. So we had the Rio de Janeiro summit, the Kyoto Protocol, Copenhagen, the famous Paris Agreement that solved all the problems. And you can see basically that nothing happened. All these meetings, this scope, are a sort of matrix, is a suggestive ritual that we use to avoid to face the fact that the concentration is increasing. There is a nice meme now coming out, the climatard, a person that believes the climate can be changed by paying tax to the government. But I mean, how this COP think that they can change the level of emission in the atmosphere? Originally, the original policy legend was the tradable permits. That basically goes this way. Countries that are rich, that emit CO2, keep emitting, but they have to give money to countries that are not emitting enough so that they can industrialize. Of course, unless you didn't study economy for a long period of time, you have a problem in understanding how this arrangement could reduce emission. As a matter of fact, it doesn't. But the policy legend that is the logic here is that if the rich give the money to the poor to become industrialized, then they will reduce their emission. This is called Kuznets curve. The idea is, no, the idea we'll see later on. Now, the real issue is what happened is the post-industrial country, when it became post-industrial, stopped producing industrial product, and then they import it from other countries, and they basically specialize in producing financial products, debt, basically. We are printing money, basically. So in this way, we can import what we consume, and this is good for the environment. But of course, if you are no longer producing inside your border, but you are importing by other people, the emissions are just externalized to another country, but they go into the same atmosphere. So the question is, how it is possible for such sloppy narratives to be used? Just an example of the reasoning of the reduction of emission using the economic emission intensity indicator. You have a country, I think this data are from Spain, 95 and 2015. Basically, the GDP increased 83%, the energy 57, the emission 57, more or less. And then we have the intensity of emission, the CO2 emitted per euro went down. So according to this indicator, the economic growth reduced emission. But what is the catch? The reduced emission per unit of GDP. But if you are looking the amount of emission that are emitted, obviously it increased. So it is just that there is a very careless way of framing. These are not models, it's what justify the use of certain narratives. Okay, coming to models, the situation is the same. Again, this is the killing curve, and this would be the scenario used by the Commission to predict what is happening. So they are looking at 20% to reduce from 100% to 20%, 80% of reduction. And when I saw this, I had this joke in mind. There are two mathematicians. There is on the left of the blackboard equation, on the right of the blackboard equation. They are totally different. And the justification written on the blackboard is, then a miracle occurs. And one of the two mathematicians say, I think you should be more specific here in step 2, because in reality, we are really in front of the necessity of miracles. So how plausible is this graph? We do not have large-scale storage of intermittent electricity, and we will see later on what is the problem. Biofuels are not getting anywhere. We will discuss also this later on. Hydrogen is still far away, so it is not clear what will be used as energy carrier to power our activities. But there is an additional major systemic blunder with this type of analysis, is that assuming that we will do something else, we will have to implement alternative process to produce energy carrier, cement, steel, plastic, ammonia. We need fertilizer for eating. And we will have to make power plant, infrastructure to replace our economy with another one, all in 20 years. And of course, at the moment, the only things we have to do these things is conventional fossil energy. So what is missed in this scenario is a concept that is called energy cannibalism, that you have to invest energy in order to have energy saving. And this means that in terms of emission, you will have an increase of emission before start reducing it. And as a matter of fact, the quicker you want to have the transition, the higher will be the peak of emission. Then, if you are looking at expert of energy, this is Douglas Mill, probably the best energy expert of the world, you will see that there are activities that at the moment we cannot do without fossil energy, steel, cement, ammonia, plastics, and then these are 15%, or he said probably 20% of the energy that we are spending at the moment. And then we have to add transportation, liquid fuels, that at the moment 90% is fossil energy. So about 50% of the fossil energy we are using now cannot be eliminated or substituted in 10, 20 years. So if you have a scenario that say that in 30 years we are reducing of 40%, 50%, it is absolutely totally implausible. Again, in order to make wind turbines and all these things, we will need hundreds of millions of fossil of CO2 emission. If we start looking at the emission related of the use of the material to make alternative energy, we go then in an enormous expectation for an increase of emission. And then there is the last, but not least, in the sense we are trying to change an airplane on which we are flying. So we need, this is on the left, and new about India. They are putting laws to force coal plants to boost the output as much as possible because they have shortage of electricity that is damaging the economy. And in China, we know that they are still building a quantity of coal power plant that will remain active for at least the next 20 years. So now, having the first assessment of how bad is the framing of the analysis in general terms, I would like to discuss with you two specific problems, one about the renewable electricity and one about biofuels. So the first one is a lesson learned from the large-scale experiment with the Energiewende in Germany, and the other one will be the experience done in the United States with biofuel. What we do, this is something that we developed in a big project that we did of the European Commission. We use the quantitative storytelling. That is, we are not claiming that I'm showing you the model that tells you how things are. I'm telling you stories and putting numbers in it to try to explain that there are alternative framing of the discussion that can be done not using models that nobody understands, but explaining in plain terms stories. And this is the project that within which we did all this analysis. This was a big project, but 7.5 million euros. And it was about checking the robustness of the narrative used in the European Commission to discuss of sustainability. Okay, so the experience in Germany has been pretty much clear. They spend 300 billion, something like that. At the end, they are producing the electricity as before, but more expensive. And this is not, I'm not saying that, it has been said by the German Parliament, the Budget Committee, because otherwise you always find Germans in the audience that object to this statement. It didn't work. Let's face it, and see why it didn't work. Because I believe that the expert, the economic energy expert, they seems to have missed some special characteristic of electricity that make difficult to use intermittent source of electricity. This is an example. This is the solar supply with PV in Namibia. Namibia is the country in the world with the highest potential for photovoltaic. You have on the top the domestic demand, the commercial demand, and then if you use this electricity to cover the demand, you discover that there are areas of demand that cannot be covered by this electricity, okay? And then you have to imagine that the domestic demand of electricity in Namibia is pretty low, also because there is no electrification in rural areas, the consumption are lower, and also for the industry, Namibia is not an industrial country. So basically, the most productive photovoltaic country in the world cannot use it. And it is quite evident they generate a lot of electricity that cannot be used because there is no demand. Okay, so what is the problem? Is the electricity is a sort of kinetic energy. There are electrons moving in a pipe, so in a hose. Then you have water in the hose and the grid, and then you have water out. What happened here? You cannot put water in if someone is not taking water out, and you cannot take out water out if someone is not putting water in, unless you have a storage. No, we know all that as soon as you have a pumping water thing, you must have a storage in order to be possible to use the water. Unfortunately, in the grid, we do not have large capacity of storage. And this is the problem with the large-scale incorporation of intermittent has been so far. Okay, so let's look, imagine that you are a small person selling ice cream. And let's imagine that a person say, okay, I have a machine that can make 1.5 tons of ice cream, and then you can, for 1 month, all the ice cream you are using be covered by my production. Okay, if you have this type of shop, and this is not a refrigerator, you cannot use the 1.5 tons of ice cream, because the ice cream without refrigeration has to be made and eaten. So I don't know if I am exaggerating in the explanation, but it seems that economic energy analysts cannot understand the special characteristic of intermittent electricity. So what is the problem is, let's imagine that this is a lot of electricity in time in a country. Basically, you will have that a certain, as much as possible, is covered by power plant. They are as cheap as possible, that can cover the base load. And then you will have other power plant. They are capable of covering the peaks, okay? Then this means that we do not have kilowatt hour of electricity. You have kilowatt hour of base load electricity, a kilowatt hour of peak electricity. If you're looking at the power plant, you will see the nuclear, brown coal, coal, they have a very high capacity factor. They are used more, they cost less, but they cannot modulate. If you have a peak, there is nothing you can do. If you want to start a nuclear plant, it takes 2 days before it goes in full. So you cannot switch on and off a nuclear plant depending on the demand. Whereas you may have a turbine. You may have a turbine like an airplane. You just push the button and in 2 minutes it's working. And then these can cover the peaks, but of course they are operating less, only where they are needed, and they are depending. In general, you can imagine that these are more expensive. Hydro is fantastic because depending when you need it or not, you open the faucet and that's it. But the main point here, you have 2 types of electricity and 2 types of power plant. What happens if I use a third category that is intermittent? Okay, so let's imagine this is like before, this is the requirement. Then you have base load, and you put on the base load the intermittent. Okay, you will see that a lot of intermittent is useless because it's too much, produce things that are not needed, is not enough, doesn't produce when it's needed. Again, so all this electricity is lost, basically. Then you need the peakers as well. You need the base load, and the contribution of the peakers of the intermittent is not particularly relevant because is only this part here and this part here we cover. Okay. Then you have the activists. They are always on the on the run. And then what happened? He said, no, this is because you are not giving priority intermittent. Let's give priority to intermittent. So we say whatever is produced by intermittent electricity, wind, we put it in the grid. Let's see what happened. So what happened is pretty easy to see, that you still need the peakers and you need still the base load, because then otherwise you have huge hole of lack of electricity. You need a backup. So basically you end up by having bigger base loader, and this intermittent, this time you are using the electricity on the intermittent and you are not using the electricity on the base loader. Okay. Okay, so what happens if, because of this, we build more intermittent? We can build how many intermittent we want, but we do not solve the problem. The problem is that they are not producing when it's needed, and they are producing when it's not needed. In this case, we don't need to keep building additional windmill. We have already plenty. What we don't have is batteries, the ability of store the ice cream and redistribute it during the weeks. Okay. So we did a couple of papers on this, and you can see this is Germany, and this is where they started with the Energiewende. So basically what happened is that the electricity produced and consumed is the same. The conventional peaker and loader are the same. The other renewable are the hydro. And then basically you see the huge amount, the 300 billions of windmills basically are not particularly useful, are just there, but they are not used, or they are used and they are displacing them. But I mean, and this is the only thing that happened, is that the cost of electricity went up. Okay, this is the paper if someone wants to have a look at it. So what is the point? Fantastic, we want to have intermittent, we want to have alternative energy, but unless we are capable of having an adequate storage capacity, they are not solving the problem. Okay, how big is the problem of storage capacity? We go again to the guru, and what the guru says is Tokyo is one day under a typhoon, so you cannot use either wind or sun. It will require a quantity of storage that is 3 orders of magnitude larger than 1,500 times larger than the larger storage available. And this is only for Tokyo in one day. So if you have Tokyo, New Delhi, New York, whatever, it will need a lot of storage capacity at the moment in which we are putting lithium in the batteries of the car. So the problem is that I think that all this triumphalistic, the power capacity of wind generation is tripled in the last 20 years, 4 times more. These are just evidence of ignorance, because you don't want to have the increase in power capacity. You want to have the amount of electricity that is produced and consumed in the grid. That is the only things that matter. Now we move to the problem with biofuels. This is easier. As a matter of fact, I don't think that this is needed in the United States. I spent like 5 years of my life in Cornell University with David Pimentel doing the work on bioethanol. And again, let's see. This is a fantastic, it's a book in 1945 about ethanol. And he say, there are people that say that we should use alcohol and vegetable oil to substitute petroleum energy. And this reminds of Marie Antoinette's advice to the Paris to eat cake when they had no bread. We are using oil to make agro biomass, and it doesn't make any sense to make agro biomass to do oil. Just to give you an idea of how can you deal with this, you can look at the input required to produce ethanol. You have to put fertilizer, so you have a quite large environmental impact, also in terms of loss of habitat. You then produce corn, you make beer with it. It would be better just to burn the way it is. Then you make distillation, and then you get 66 gigajoule of ethanol. As a matter of fact, this is incorrect. You're not getting 66, you're getting 6, because you should get all the amount of energy that has been used to produce it. And in addition to that, this is a very good fuel, 42 megajoule per kilo, and this is a very bad fuel, 21 megajoule, so has a very low concentration. And so what happened? The output input is very low. This implies that to have 1 liter net, you have to produce 11 liter gross. Then is 11 times more land, soil erosion, pollution, and therefore it doesn't make any sense. So this, you know, in the States better than me, this has been done to help agriculture. Everyone was happy. We had even Texas or Arizona willing to have, how do you say, the ethanol plant, and they had to import corn from Mexico. It didn't have any meaningful explanation from an energetic point of view. If you go in Brazil, let's go quicker, things are much better for a series of problems, because they are using the bagasse for the distillation. So the production is not bad in terms of net, still 21 megajoule versus 42. So the car going on ethanol, there were no power. But this is the problem. In South America, this is called la hierba de la miseria. Look, the amount of labor that you need. This was done at the beginning with slaves. They were paid basically by ton. And then after they, with Lula, improved the labor condition, the economic view of this get much worse. And basically, this means that if you are relying on natural pace of ecological process, the productivity of production factors goes down. The productivity of labor goes down. It is easy to make this point. This is a machine getting coal in Germany. It supplied 10,000 trucks of coal per day, operated by 7 people. So we are talking about huge labor productivity, and this is a palm oil plantation. Again, this is not even comparable. You know, look at that, and let's imagine how many of these you need to make 10,000 truck of coal equivalent. But there is another point that is self-explanatory. Again, this is Douglas Mill, is that we are consuming energy at a given density. So this is watt per square meter. And then the biomass is order of magnitude lower, because this is a logarithmic scale. No? And this is possible because coal field, oil field have a density that is much higher than the density at which we are consuming. And then if we look at biofuel, the biofuel is even lower because you have to take out the internal loop of energy consumed to make energy, to make the biofuel. No? So the problem with land productivity is obvious. And basically, this graph said it all. You have that the population has been always more or less the same, and the energy consumption more or less the same. The use of natural resources per capita more or less the same for 1,000 years, when this was circular economy. This was the circular economy. And then at a certain point, everything changed because of oil. So the population went up dramatically, the natural resource per capita down. But in spite of that, we are increasing the energy consumption per capita. So something new, something totally different happened. And basically, we start using oil to save land and labor. Also, what is the basic idea of the agrobiofuel? Using land and labor to save oil. I mean, it is difficult to believe that this has been one major policy in developed country. We don't have time because we have been working a lot of this, first in the States, and after the experience of the States, we went again into this in Europe. It is unbelievable. Again, this can be explained only through the biosemiotic process. We want easy solution, and politicians give easy solution, even though they do not make any sense. Okay, talking about the policy legend of implemented at the moment, we have the circular economy that I think is fantastic. The circular economy at the beginning was a sexier name for waste management, and then moved to an ideological endorsement of capitalism. That has been a major jump. No, it's a very nice paper that we wrote with Silvia Funtovitz that I think gave a speech. No. Before me, and then what happened? How we got into this policy legend? It started with the Berlin Wall. So this was about group identity, communism versus capitalists, and then the war, the identity of the capitalists didn't won because we had better army. Won because we had better supermarket. Okay, so who won the war? The American dream. The American dream is not about having stuff, it is about having opportunity. And then this is fantastic, because if you are poor and there is inequity, it's your fault. You had the opportunity. So what happened? People belong to the society, feel to belong to the society, because even though he has a bad life, he always hope, or she always hope, that the children will do better. Okay, so this is the myth that is keeping together our group identity. But what happened if someone arrived and tell you, no, there are no resources to have everyone on this planet rich as US people, and the perpetual economic growth is not possible? As a matter of fact, this is exactly what happened in the 60s and the 70s with the limits to grow book. It was with another population bomb, the Silent Spring. everyone was doing that. There are limits, guys. We cannot go, and therefore we cannot keep going up forever. At a certain point, either we have to collapse, or to go in steady state, or to readjust. And this was not acceptable. This was attempting going against our group identity. So then this is where the mainstream neoclassical economists got into the discussion and go with the legend. Okay, this is not true. It is not true that they are going to manage. We can keep growing no matter what, 3% for a year forever. And how you justify this? In using economic model, they show you that the world can, in effect, get along with natural resources. And of course, he got immediately a Nobel Prize for this rescue of the myth, okay? So, and then for 10, 20 years, we had no longer a battles. The cornucopians, they're saying that the perpetual growth possible, that no matter what is the problem, human ingenuity will fix it, were ruling. And the prophets of doom, they're saying the perpetual growth is not impossible, that you put a technology, you solve a problem, but you generate another one. These were the loser. And the myth remained untouched. Remained untouched until we got another scare. This time it's not that we do not have enough resources on the supply side, but we get too much emission on the sink side. And then, of course, we get again in a situation in which our group identity is under stress. And then, of course, we got again the neoclassical economists helping us, and then they appropriated the term bioeconomy that paradoxically has been created, the Baranov in 1907, to say that the economy has biophysical limits, and then reused by Georgescu-Roegen to say that bioeconomics means start with the limits and then do economic reasoning, was appropriated and used with the opposite meaning. Circular economy, regenerative by design, blah, 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 can decouple global economic development from finite resource consumption. Yes, we are go back, no, they come back. We are exactly back to what happened the first time. You know, that by talking Latin, using legend, we say the myth is okay, no problem, guys, we are right. Okay. What is the problem with this myth? Is that the economy cannot be circular. This is Ilya Prigogine, is the father of non-equilibrium thermodynamic, dissipative system. The dissipative system are metabolic system, us, the living system, the society, they have to take resources from outside, metabolize, and throw it as waste. That's it. It's something that is about the way life works on this planet, and technical innovation and business models cannot do anything against that. Okay, just to give you an example of how serious is the issue, we have the International Space Station, which is the top technological achievement, put together all different countries. And what happened? That this station receive a few tons of input every three months. And what it does with this input, it throws it out of the window. This is what 1.6 tons of space station rubbish look like on re-entry. So there is no circularity in the station. And why is that? It's because they are uncivilized people. They just throw their garbage out of the window. They never thought about the fact that they could recycle. No, on the contrary, it is more than 50 years that there is a ferocious attempt to define, to generate a controlled ecological life support system. And of course, we are not capable of stabilize the atmosphere in a container with 3 people that don't do anything, let alone an economy. So what happened is that there is a bad narrative definition of the working of the economy. This is the standard view of the working on the economy, the goods and services, general labor, land, capital, factor of production, goods and services. All these go around in the economy. There is no interaction with the environment, no relation between the size of the economy and the size of the embedding ecosystem. And if you're looking at the biophysical view, basically labor is making labor, technology is making technology, land is making land, and the energy, water, food are recycled inside the economy. This is a growing perpetual motion machine. This is totally absurd. Let's imagine that you are talking about humans making humans, labor making labor. Basically, in the total circularity means that basically humans will eat their excrement, and with this they will make more humans. They will increase the population. Nobody knows how it can increase the mass, because if it is closed, the mass must remain the same. So it is not only a perpetual motion machine, but it's a growing perpetual motion. This is totally absurd. Okay, the real view is that this policy legend should be changed in a biophysical narrative in which labor, technology, and land are reproduced because of flows coming from nature and waste going into nature. And who is doing the recycling is the activity of ecological funds. For those that are aware of some fundamental of thermodynamic non-equilibrium, in the technosphere, we are generating positive entropy, and this would be bad unless you have activity in the biosphere that is generating enough negative entropy that is compensating the positive entropy here. However, I think this is self-explanatory independently of a thermodynamic discussion. Okay. So the conclusion, what is going on in sustainability science? And I think that this is, in my view, one of the best paper I ever read. I strongly recommend, if you don't know it, to get it. Uncomfortable Knowledge, the Social Construction of Ignorance in Science, Environmental Policy Discourse, that in order to build a common identity, you have to have a story that can be shared and among people. So you have to develop simplified, self-consistent version. At a certain point, after you reach and achieve an agreement about the story, who we are, what we do, why we do it, you do not want to have knowledge which says that what you are saying or the agreement that you have is wrong. So this is called uncomfortable knowledge, and therefore we do not want to talk of things that are ruining the shared agreement. So, and then this, oops, there is something wrong here with the animation. And this is the emotional dimension. This fantastic cartoon. Sorry, friends, the social conquests were only temporary concession. And this is stressing the role of science. So why we have science? For two reasons. One, to generating useful knowledge, and also to legitimizing social institution. People, you know that before the Enlightenment, the French Revolution, you say, okay, you have to pay taxes because the king wants to do something. And how the king knows that this is all right? Because God tell him. Before we had the legitimization of the government, it was given by God, by religion. After the French Revolution, he said, we have to pay taxes because the government wants to do that. And he said, why? How the government knows? Because they are using the scientific method. At a certain point, science now is part of the governance process we saw before at the beginning to legitimize social institution. Therefore, the scientists are playing two roles at the same time, giving information that can be uncomfortable, or saying that the government is right and we should trust them. Now, what to do depends a lot on the situation. This is Apollo 13, I think, is the movie of the people trapped on the moon. And you have two ways of dealing with this crisis. Houston, we have a problem, or don't worry, we have solutions. Of course, they did Houston, we have a problem, and they managed to come back. In terms of what is happening now with sustainability, it seems that there is a general agreement in the establishment and also in the majority of the scientists giving advice is, don't worry, we have solution. With technical solution and more business model, we save it. Please note that if you say that we need more technical innovation and more business model, we are saying we have to give more money to the banks. Probably this is not exactly what we need to do. However, this is my personal opinion. So the last question is, what is the role of scientists in discussion over sustainability? How is it possible that so many scientists endorse circular economy as a sustainability solution if this concept is at odds with the laws of thermodynamics? And then I believe this is a good answer that I found. It is difficult to get a man to understand something if his salary depends on him not understanding it. I believe that now in the scientific arena, we have the Mozart things, così fan tutte. Since everybody does it, I do it as well. It is true that a lot of young students, scientists start now, they have to go for circular economy, zero emission, and all these other policy legend, because otherwise they cannot publish, they cannot get money, a research fund, they will not be invited at conference. But on the other hand, I believe that especially the seniors should start complaining that this is not possible. It is time to flag the existence of an enormous quantity of uncomfortable knowledge that could prime a new discussion about the group identity. We are not here in our society, to produce and consume as much as possible. Probably we should be taking care of each other and taking care of nature. This should be the new shared goal that should be used to build our shared identity. Okay, then this is my last slides. With the Magic Project, we went through this narrative of the European Commission. The liquid fuel production is a biofuel. This would be the alternative energy. This would be the farm to fork in agriculture. This was the circular economy. This is a little bit what I am presenting today. The energy efficiency, and then in general, the problem of generating scientific advice when dealing with complex systems. Okay, John, I'm through. Are you still there?
I'm still here. So thank you for that. That was wonderful. Normally we would have some questions, so I'll try to come up with a few intelligent ones myself, but
it shouldn't be difficult. Come on, John. You are a smart guy.
The circular economy one, that one you touched on it a little bit, and I think that's one of the key differences between the US and the European Union in particular. The EU very much is pushing the circular economy, so much so from my perspective as an outsider, it almost seems it's to the point of like a religion. I'm wondering if you could comment on that a little bit.
It's a religion, yes. Look, I didn't have time. I have a fantastic video I have a video of the signing of the Paris Agreement. So they said, this is, we have, and all the people, I don't know if you remember, they are hugging each other, are crying, we save the planet. And then after that, I have a video of the liquefaction of the blood of San Gennaro in Naples. That is exactly the same. There is all people, and then the guys, finally, it happened. The blood became liquid, and other people, ah! It is just, these are ritual. They are, again, I think that what I really like about the biosemiotic things is that we have to learn how to mix together emotions and feeling, fear, things with the governance, because this is something that is completely sterilized, especially for economic. We assume that we are rational behavior. Among all the incredible assumption of economics, I think this is by far the most absurd. I think that nobody is rational. I mean, you get married, I think, who is rational when take important decision in life. But I mean, especially when you are building group. Let's imagine the fans are looking at sport event or things. You immediately tend to be in one group or another. Is a natural tendency. And then this is a prerequisite to be capable later on to communicate, because we are in the same team. So we want to do something together. If you are not there, you don't communicate. Yeah, look, Israel now, and they are not capable of communicating. They do not have anything in common. They do not want to. And so you will never solve a problem if you do not arrive to a point to admit that you have something in common with the other person to which you have to do an agreement. And so I think that this is totally lost in the sustainability science that we have. Look, I'm telling you, I do models. I do, you know me. I do quantitative analysis, multi-scale. I got into this type of presentation that I did today because at a certain point I realized that it's not by making a better model or by showing a better number that we solve this problem, unless the people feel that things are not getting well, and then they have to go through what Silvio Funtovic we call the tragedy of change. They have to accept that they will have to lose some of their piece of identity to be able to preserve other pieces of identity, that you have to accept to go to a tragedy of change. We will not solve it with better models. I'm telling you, I'm proud developer of a model based on complexity, multi-scale, multi-dimension, in predicative things. I use relational analysis. I don't use the new, I mean, another point I want to discuss about this, that the majority of models that we are using now are using differential equation, something developed by Newton, 200, I don't know how many hundreds years ago. And then with causality, if A, then B, I mean, it doesn't work in real life. A makes B, B makes A. Well, everything depends on everything else. So, I mean, I've been doing quantitative analysis. I have fantastic result to present. But I think that if you ask me to present something for me important is to reflect on this point. The worst problem of sustainability is that our society doesn't want to hear about it, doesn't want to see it. They like Greta things. Whoever came out with things that are completely not operational, and then everything, the one in life cycle assessment counting the kilos of CO2, no? This occupational therapy, we have the vast majority of our scientists, they are in occupational therapy. They are calculating things. They are not the issue that we have to address. And this is what I admit that the presentation is a little bit strange. It is not according to the classic discussion with economic and ecological economics. But I believe that it is important to start changing the narrative. We cannot solve this with the grow substitution, the weak, strong sustainability. No, we have to start enlarge the view and start putting other additional elements, because the governance has nothing to do with the models.
Right.
It is the choice of narrative that we consider relevant and for us. And then this shape affective interaction, because it's in the affective interaction that you have the construction of group identity, not in market transaction. No, I'm coming from Naples. Last week, it was in Naples. Wherever you go, you talk, and someone start talking about his family. How are you? Everyone start. Is a poor cultural things, but people tend to bind with each other, you know, sharing their. So and then as soon as you go in rich country in the north, you know, you are not supposed to exchange any word with the person in the shop or whatever, a minimum. So it is deep. Huh?
Yeah. Well, I want to build on that because that's one of the concerns I have with younger people today, particularly younger graduate students and undergraduate students. What I personally see, one of your slides was about hope, and if you don't have hope, you're just going to stay in the same situation. And then what you just said, often with the younger people I see today, they they agree there's something wrong, and we all know there's something wrong, but they're confining themselves to their own little group instead of, as you're saying, build upon what's there, get in there and mix it up. And I'm very concerned about that, because we're, instead of taking our ideas and going out and defending them and making them stronger and integrating them so we can have change, we're isolating into different silos. And how do we get out of that? I think it's a dangerous situation.
John, you're perfectly right. I think that there are two type of problem. One, I was at the dinner, and we say I'm old now. I'm retired last week, so I'm retired.
You can't be old, because I've known you a long time. So if you're old,
okay. And they say, okay, I don't feel like being part of this society anymore. Right. And then as soon as I said that the kids now, the young people, are the same. They are in a society in which what happened is decided by the market, by technological innovation. They are just there. So this is why they are continuously taking picture of themselves, just to prove that they are alive, that they exist, they are part of the society, because they are completely irrelevant. Second, we are screwing up their future. They know perfectly that they will be worse than it used to be. And this is, and the second part is that the IT, the information and communication technology, they are no longer forced to confront themselves with people that are different. They are making groups of people, they are their own. Okay, so they are not constructing something together. They are just protecting themselves in niches. Like, I mean, when I was young, I was protesting in the street, throwing rocks, things. Now, how the young people protest? Being vegetarian. You can imagine, let's imagine the bank or whatever, transnational, who cares if you're vegetarian? Moreover, you're vegetarian, you are eating vegetable coming from Peru in refrigerated airplane. I mean, it's amazing. However, I mean, it is important also when you are protesting in an internal way. You are protesting not putting together with other people to do something. No, it's remain your. So I think that this also, it is another problem, because young people have problem in socializing in biophysical terms. Let's put it this way. Yeah, they are putting socializing in exosomatic terms through machines, but not through affective interaction. And this definitely is a problem. Because then we are facing people, let's imagine people from India, from China. These are machines. I don't know how is the situation in the States, but with my students in Europe, they will be eating them like breakfast. They are not. Our kids are too fragile, to whatever they want to the right. We have a 24-hour crisis things. If you feel they have too much stress, I have a few students that are continuously in, how do you say, under, they stop working but keep getting the fellowship because they are too much stress. No, when I was younger, too much stress was not considered a cause to stop working. No, it is good, of course. This is a fantastic achievement. You know, the slide that I was pointing before, that all these fantastic social achievements, maybe they are temporary bonus, because it doesn't look, I mean, I have a few other presentations pretty scaring about the fact that fossil energy is reducing the quality. Maybe we will have to change dramatically the refinery, something that costs trillions. He required 20 years that maybe we do not have. But nobody cares. Oh, another point, we don't have farmers anymore. The farmers are disappearing on this planet. Nobody cares. I've been in Japan. The average age of Japanese farmer is 70. 70. They don't have agriculture anymore. In Europe, it's 60. So I mean, farmers are disappearing. Nobody cares. No, we are an urban civilization. The sooner the farmers disappear, the better, because they believe that the food comes from the supermarket. In the urban civilization, it's clear that the food is coming from supermarket, but they don't want the fossil energy to have trucks bringing food into the supermarket. John, it's to me, this is much more worrisome than the climate change. I'm not saying the climate change is not a problem, but nothing compared with the fact that at the moment we do not have the slightest idea of how our society works and what type of problem we should expect. This, in my view, is really the issue. But
I think it gets back to the technology aspects and lack of socialization and it's a really dangerous, as you say, dangerous situation because we don't know how our society works anymore. We don't know where our food comes from and so on down the line. And you know, as ecological economists, you know, it becomes, you know, my biggest criticism has always been, well, we're standing at the wall and we're throwing pebbles. Oh, neoclassical economics, it doesn't work. But we've never really come up with
something else,
something else, a valid alternative. And it's
yeah.
wrong, it's wrong. But
no, but what happened is that
how it works.
The lack of an alternative understanding has generated a proliferation of dreams.
Yeah.
Let's imagine artificial intelligence or things, because I was in Japan and but what happened with artificial intelligence? In relation to sustainability issue, nothing happened. We are producing food exactly like the Roman Empire. What happened? We put more fertilizer and more pesticide, but exactly the same. We are transporting goods using trucks with engine done by Otto and other 200 years ago. One thing is having better communication, information, blah, 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 blah. Fantastic. But when you get to the biophysical part and thermodynamic constraints, nothing happened. And people do not understand. We are now totally intoxicated. They will go to do tourism on Mars or the electric car, whatever. I don't want to go, we will need another hour on electric car. It's about having lost the most elementary ability of being in touch with reality. And this is, it is not just a person that has a delirium. We have the delirium of urban elite. We are living this. These people literally do not know what they are talking about, or what is the reality out there. And then this is bad.
Common sense is gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well,
Okay.
I want to tie you up too much because I know today is the Classico, and that's
Today in
it's a big
Barcelona
day.
is a special day. Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much. You always have something important to say, something that makes people think. And in today's world, that's increasingly rare but important. So I'm proud to call you a friend, and
We are friends.
look forward to talking to you again soon. So thank you, Mara.
Okay, so thank you for inviting me.
All right, bye.